Ladies and gentlemen, President and Editor-in-Chief, Times Now and ET Now, Mr. Arnab Goswami. Please put your hands together for him.
Thank you everyone, thank you Amita for calling me, thank you everyone at CII. And thank you for being here this morning. I'm actually surprised so many of people are here. I thought you have enough of me every night. I have enough of myself by the weekend. I'm not allowed to speak at home on the weekend. I'm not allowed to watch news. And the only entertainment I can provide is to watch my channel on mute. I can assure you, watch NewsHour on mute, it's very entertaining. So recently we were at an event management function. It was about events and experience. I said, well, we provide you an event at 9 o'clock every night. It's a unique experience. But we also provide you the entertainment. So we are a holistic package, as it were. But thank you for coming here today. Now, I am going to keep it short because unless you put a time limit on me, and Amita said, how long? And you should never say this to me, Amita, you should never say to me that there is no time limit. Because if there is no time limit, your 20 minutes is the length of my average question. So, and I won't even give you a chance to reply. So in that sense, it's a dangerous thing. Anyway, self-inflicted injury by the CIA this morning. I have a mental clock, and that clock, I have my sales head with me. The clock's only time it doesn't work is when the advertising breaks comes in, right, Harsh? I keep a mental clock for 20 minutes to you. I'm here before you today. Thank you for the opportunity to tell you a little bit about what I feel we have done in news, but more importantly than that, I am going to tell you what we are going to do in news. For me, the future is exciting. And I am an evangelist of this beautiful profession called journalism. It's a beautiful profession. The question is how you do it and what you do in this profession. When people question me, they question me on my form. They say, why do you speak so much? Why do you shout so much? I'm here to tell you today about my content and why I do what I do. So I'll divide this 20 minutes into two parts. First part, very briefly, I'll tell you about what we've done. Because we believe we have essentially been hugely disruptive in the news business. Close your eyes today in this room and ask yourself, how was the news done 10 years back? And how is the news being done now? You won't even recognize the news of today if you compare it to the news of 2004. In how many industries in this country are you in a position where you cannot recognize what the industry was like a dozen years back and what the industry is today? Apart from maybe telecom. Right. I think news is one of the few areas where there has been a massive change. The rate of this change tells me the rate of change in the future is going to be greater. We disrupted the news industry in many ways, and I believe in breaking the status quo because, as Ronald Reagan said, and because we are close to the great American elections, it's good to quote this. He said, status quo, is Latin for the mess we are in. We were in a mess in the news industry in 2004, 2005. What was the news industry? We went through 40, 50, 60 years of covering inaugurations, speaking for the politicians, and whining about what's going wrong in this country. Then we spent about 4 or 5 years creating art forms like Sansani on television, where essentially a person who reported on crime excelled in looking like a criminal himself. And we said that's great and catchy television. Then the change happened. We launched our channel from a cotton mill compound in Lower Parel. And I can confidently tell you this, from that day, on January 31st, 2006, till this point today, news has never been the same again. The bottom line is we changed it all. And how did we change it? Quickly to tell you about how we disrupted this business. The first is 5 premises. The first premise is challenge everybody. Challenge everybody, including religion. Break the cardinal rule in India that nobody questions religion. Question everybody, including religion. Last afternoon, 286 days after we picked up the right to pray issue, I don't know if you followed it over the last few days, 286 days after we picked up the right to pray issue in the context of Sabrimala, the Haji Ali Dargah Trust allowed women the right to enter the sanctum sanctorum of the shrine as men, something which had been denying since 2012. This marked the culmination of a relentless campaign that began in January 2016 on part of Hindu and Muslim women to enter the sanctum sanctorum of shrines like Sabrimala, Shani Shignapur and Haji Ali. This is a beautiful business. When you stick your neck out and you say, I disagree with you, I don't care for what you are, I don't care whether you're a Pandit or a Maulvi or a Maulana, I don't care whether you carry the sanctity of religion, whether you're a politician or anyone else, I just don't believe in the way you've done things. In 286 days, you have demolished an age-old, centuries-old, decades-old, whatever religion, tradition, whatever you call it, because you believe what is right and what is wrong. You are on the side of right. It is wrong to deny women access to the Haji Ali shrine. We questioned them and therefore we challenged it. We are therefore disruptive. Point number one, we disrupt everything including religion. Point number two, take on powerful people. And when you take on powerful people, you regain the faith of the viewer. I left this city in 2004 worried about the state of my profession. When media in Delhi had got co-opted by the political class of this city. And I remember that I came back to this city on the 24th of January 2011 when Prime Minister Manmohan Singh was about to do a press conference, which in itself was breaking news because the Prime Minister never spoke then. But I remember sitting in that room and there were 15 editors. I was editor number 13, almost given my own set of personal bodyguards. And as I entered, I watched 12 editors before me not ask one question to the Prime Minister of India about the scams that had been reported for the last 6 months. 6 months before that, we broke a story called CWG, 2G, Devasis Road, Kargil for Profit, Aircel Maxis. I hope you've not forgotten these names. We broke it, we stuck our neck out. When Arvind Kejriwal says anything about corruption, I tell him, where were you, Arvind, when we stuck our neck out on corruption? You were a marketing gimmick. That's what you were. You capitalized on our work. India Against Corruption was not there. There was no Anna, there was no Kiran Bedi, there was no Arvind. There was just a channel called Times Now reporting out of Mumbai, breaking every story out there. When I entered the room, not one editor in that room asked a question to the Prime Minister of India on the scams. One editor even asked the Prime Minister, कि प्रधानमंत्री जी आप सचिन तेंदुलकर को क्या कहना चाहते हैं? Because Sachin had scored a century the day before. And I sat there horrified. I told myself, Arnab, this is what you fled. This, they say, is the high table of journalism in India. These are the editors. These are the high priests. This is the reason why we disconnected from the audience. We broke away from that tradition of lopsided journalism. Point number three. We put people first. We disrupted this business by saying the only people who matter are the people. Nobody else matters. I believe in a different order of news that gives voice to the concerns of the people over everything else. And I believe that is the order of news that strikes a chord with the masses and gives them something that they can directly relate to. I have been lampooned by my own profession for doing a 4-day coverage of an event called The Ordeal of Prince. This happened in 2006. I've spoken about it on some occasions. 5-year-old boy, son of a landless laborer, falls into a deep bore well at 6:30 p.m. on July 21st, 2006. He falls through the bore well and he falls 60 feet below the ground. English channels refuse to cover the story. They say a Hindi channel wali story hai. We pick up the story for various reasons. And before you today, I shall share with you my own personal reason for covering the story. Because in July 2006, I had failed. I had launched a channel and it had failed. And there are people with me here in the room today. Partho is there, chairman of BARC. He knows the difficulty we faced when we failed. Nobody stands with you when you fail. And I asked myself deep within, why did you fail? I failed. I launched a channel which was laughed at. Not called Times Now. They used to say Times when? Times never. The political class, they didn't like the fact that within 1 month of the launch of this channel, we were part of breaking the Office of Prophet story. We had broken big stories. We had challenged Naveen Chawla. We had challenged Naveen Chawla, who was close to Sonia Gandhi, the Congress establishment at that time. And in Delhi, people don't talk as openly as I do, but I talk anyway. These people didn't like us. They wanted us to fail. They realized that if this channel, if this group of journalists working out of Mumbai stands on its own feet, there will be a challenge to our establishment one day. So crush their spirit. And when we were crushed, when we were 7% ratings channel, we covered the story of Prince. Because when you lose it all, your life goes back to your own experience. And I remember in 1996, my news editor called Appan Menon, a wonderful person, I don't know how many in the room knew him. He brought me to this profession. Appan had asked me to go and report a story of a child falling into a borewell outside a school in South Delhi. And I told Appan, I won't cover the story. And Appan said, why? I said, Appan, I'm a university topper. I've been to Oxford. I want to cover big news. Appan said, what is big news? I said, I want to cover the finance ministry, Congress party, BJP, elections. I don't want to cover the story of a child falling into a borewell. Appan told me that one day in your life you will realize, Arnab, that borewell was supposed to be covered by someone from the government. A child falling into a borewell is a bigger story than the ones you're talking about. And that day, on July 21st, 2006, I went into my consciousness. I was atoning out of a sense of self-guilt. I realized what this profession was about. And I obsessively covered it. And I can't tell you what the emotions are, because I've been told, distance your emotion from the news. News is supposed to be objective. When you emote, you lose a sense of objectivity. I haven't heard greater rubbish in my life. How can you be unemotional? When a 6-year-old boy, you don't know whether he's dead or alive, the whole country was praying for him. I remember there was no Twitter. We opened up the phone lines. But with the phone lines, we opened up our hearts. And everyone across the country started calling, praying for Prince. Every time his hand moved, and when eventually somebody brought the boy out from the borewell, and he was taken wrapped up, and we did not know whether Prince was brought out dead or alive. Our hearts were beating. And when we finally were told that Prince is alive, my entire newsroom started crying. 4 days we had done nothing else. Some of us had not gone home. We were just obsessing about Prince. The whole newsroom started crying. That is the core of this profession. It's nothing else. We captured it in one line when we launched this channel. We said, feel the news. Feel it in your heart. Strike a chord with the people. It will make a difference. And thrown it into the dustbin. And that cardinal rule is never express your opinion. Report only the facts. Facts are sacred, but opinion is supreme. Those people who believe that they should not express opinion are lying to you. They have opinion. They are only disguising it. They have opinion. They are only camouflaging it. The difference is I don't camouflage my opinion. So much so that when in January, in JNU, I find someone saying, Bohar wali azadi, I am upset with it. I'm not going to be politically correct about it. This profession that I am in for 1 month went after me because I questioned those people who said Burhan wali azadi. I wish they would have the heart 6 months later to reevaluate their own positions in another context. Bottom line is this. Television debates are not meant to be a Wikipedia-like functioning of doling out facts and information to the viewer alone. Accessibility of information in today's day and age is free and simple. And therefore consider that if television news is meant to be a change agent, it is imperative that it arrives at an opinion based on the facts at its disposal. Opinion is therefore sacred because having an opinion and not hesitating to air it, however uncomfortable it may be to those at its receiving end, is a reflection of the power of this great democracy of ours. I therefore am a great believer in opinion. Opinion that is not motivated, but opinion that comes from the core of our hearts. Because everywhere we have our opinions and we have a right to express it. I have a fundamental rule: everybody can express their views on my show and on our channel, but I reserve to have the right to my own opinion as well. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I believe the game has just begun. And I will now tell you about the future of journalism in this country. And I will tell you facts. And as I tell you this today, I assure you, Amitabh, call me back 3 years from now to this point, or maybe 4, and you will see that everything I'm about to tell you is about to happen in the next 3 or 4 years. I hope there are some young journalists in this room, and if there are some today, I want you to hear me. And I just want to say this: disagree with me, disagree with my views. There's no problem with it. You don't have to agree with me, but I want to present a view of what is about to happen. So, our disruption has happened over the last decade. The future of our disruption, which is going to happen over the next 3 years, is going to be 6 or 7-fold. First, and don't misunderstand this, please, we will disrupt by taking news away from the city we are in. New Delhi will not be the center of news. This is a cold fact, and believe me, we are doing it even today. We control 80% viewership. The channels in Delhi have 20%. It's not about a geography. It's not about a mindset. Don't get me wrong, this is not my fundamental premise against Lutyens' Delhi. But let me tell you this, for far too long, Indian television has lived in boxes. Boxes, I believe, that have been piled up as a sort of cushions for New Delhi to comfort the news industry of India. I have personally spent the last decade working out of a small newsroom in Lower Parel in Mumbai. And I'll tell you this, what have I learned? I have learned that being away from the national capital has allowed us the freedom to not only disrupt the system at will fearlessly, but also redefine the geography and horizons of the news viewer. So we will disrupt the news once again by taking the focus to places like Orissa, where 21 people in the ICU and dialysis ward of a hospital were killed, and it was a fleeting mention. We covered it for 3 days on our channel. We will disrupt the news once again by taking the focus to places like Bihar, where it has become an annual tradition for elected representatives of the people of an impoverished state to be grabbing goodies funded by the taxpayer. Remember, viewers, just look at last week and ask yourself fundamental fact: how many channels operating out of Delhi covered the story of Rocky Yadav? Rocky Yadav is the son of a politician, killed Aditya, 18-year-old boy, at gunpoint from the back of his car because he overtook his car. For some reason, this story didn't shake the hearts here. Is it because people felt that if you question Rocky Yadav, you'll be questioning a certain part of the establishment that you don't want to question at this point of time that is ruling in Bihar? Then you are a player, you're not a journalist. But believe me, this is a mirage. Things are going to change in the way people will not recognize again. Believe me, what will happen in this country if a group of content creators takes the power of media into its hands and says, we know how to do journalism, and we owe it to nobody and nowhere to find a connect with our viewers. That's when journalists and content creators will become independent. The churn has started. People are thinking the revolution is about to come. Indian media in the next 3 or 4 years, and I said this to the Financial Times of London a year back, is going to go global in the next 3 or 4 years. Just 3 to 4 years from now, we will launch from this country, on our soil, from Lower Parel or Lutyens' Delhi, or Bangalore or Guwahati or Kolkata, we are going to launch the big challenge to global media, whichever the form. I don't find BBC or CNN to be sacred cows of journalism. I don't believe we have anything to learn from Al Jazeera. I have in our channel, when we launched, done a tie-up with Reuters and trained 20 to 25 people of the finest people who came from print. We trained them in television, and today they control newsrooms worldwide. If we can train professionals from UK and America in India on how to become television journalists, find me a justifiable reason why the time should not come when we should be doing it ourselves. I'll tell you a small story. I have a reporter called Niranjan Swami. We sent him to cover Modi's visit when he went to London. And he called me one day and he said, the Paris attacks. I want to go to Paris. I said, please go. He landed in Paris. The next day after that, he says, I need to speak to you urgently. I said, what's happening? He says, I'm in Brussels. I said, what are you doing in Brussels? He says that the terrorists have been found in a locality. And he said, what are you doing? He says, I've been reporting live. Switch on the TV. I said, but how are you reporting? You don't have anything with you, a camera, logistics, nothing. He says, boss, you need nothing today. I've got a selfie stick. And I've been reporting live on my selfie stick for the last 1 hour. And I said, but how did you get there? He said, I'm so excited. I said, where is BBC and CNN? He said, boss, they haven't even woken up. And believe me, an Indian reporter in Brussels reached the site 3 to 4 hours before operations that spend $2 billion a year. Now, if one reporter can do that, it's the power of an idea. And I'm sharing with you the greatest power of an idea, and I'm asking you this, will you not be proud when one day from our soil we will actually be a soft power doing news not just for India but for the world? What comes between us and that? Not ambition, just the thought. We will be disrupting it in the next 3 or 4 years. And Amita, I've said I'll come back to you and prove you right. Or rather prove myself right. We are ready to go global, and I give it 3 or 4 years. Now we are speaking at a time when advocacy groups in the US are urging US regulators to consider blocking AT&T's purchase of Time Warner. Now I have a different idea here. I dream of a media that has the power and the independence, but most importantly, the worth. Time Warner should have bought AT&T and not the other way around. It's a beautiful collaboration between distribution and content. If there are business heads in the room, they'll understand, and even content guys should understand. I dream of a media in which it is a Time Warner buying an AT&T and not the other way around. Ladies and gentlemen, we've shaken up the Indian system quite successfully to redefine Indian news. I began by telling you that things have changed in the way news was done 10 years back and now. Just to say at the very end, monopolies will fall. When news changes and when the revolution comes. Like old monopolies fell in the past, all monopolies will fall once again. New ones will come. And the new ones will be the guys who believe and show the world that content will be ruled by content, made by content, driven by citizen-focused, impact-driven news in a digital ecosystem, powered by television, that is answerable and responsible to itself. I have come before you today to seek your support for that. And I know many of you may watch me, many of you may disagree with me. I know that many of you in the room would say, we never agreed with what you've said on TV. That's fine. Leave that aside, okay? We are never homogeneous. We are not meant to be a homogeneous society. A society that is homogeneous is a boring society. We believe in dialectics, disagreement. That's what our democracy is about. I have come to request you for your support in this dream. Because I have this dream. I prophesize the dream will happen. There are people who believe in the dream. There are some among us in the media industry who are perennially restless. Out of our restlessness comes our urge for change. We change a few things, we fail, we get up again. In the dream for independent media, if you believe in some form, independent media needs to come forth in this country. 5 things. I'll give you 5 reasons why you should support me. Because it is time for independent media to come in this country. Secondly, because the power of distribution makes money less important and content more important. Third, because we have the power to change. We have changed. We've stuck our neck out. We've proven to you. We've done big stories. We've challenged the powerful. When we broke stories like Commonwealth Games in the UPA regime or the Lalit Gate issue in the NDA regime, people have asked us, are you doing this for ratings? You don't break CWG, 2G or Lalit Gate for ratings. You do it because you believe in a fundamental difference between right and wrong. So the third reason you should support me is that. The fourth reason is because I believe in a world where monopolies should never exist. Monopolies by nature are bad. We should democratize our business. And fifth is because this is my investment to young journalists in this country. I have done pretty much what I had to. Now, ladies and gentlemen, those who want to put up with me will put up with me at 9 o'clock for the longest time, and I'll be grateful for that. But I want to create a different form of journalism in this country. And Amita, I'm grateful to you for giving me the opportunity to speak to your esteemed audience and share this dream with you today. Thank you very much. Thank you.